Hi, everybody. My name is Mike Rugnetta. I am 1/3 of the performance thing Meme Factory, which maybe you've seen if you've been like RaffleCon and stuff. Sometimes I write for Know Your Meme and host and stuff. I'm joined here by Greg and Alex, who I'm going to let introduce themselves. Greg, you want to give us a little who you are?
So my name's Greg Leuch. I'm a virtual fellow of the Free Art and Technology Lab. I'm also a senior designer at BuzzFeed and former co-founder of KnowYourMeme.com.
Alex?
My name's Alex Pasternack. I am a journalist who edits the techno-culture website motherboard.tv, which was started and housed by Vice Media, and do various other writing on the side, and I work on a startup called Wheels, which is an app for cab sharing in New York City.
And we will soon hopefully be joined by Jeff, who is, I think, director of social media at Time Warner?
I'll do his intro.
If you could please out. Yeah, that'd be great.
He's getting coffee now, but that's just a cover to go get some internet so he can send out some tweets.
So that there's enough for everybody here, because I hear we're running a little bit, low on internet. So what we're going to be talking about is the behavior gap between corporations and people, and how when corporations involve themselves in the social media sphere, they are always set apart from the people. They always stand out. And while we might not actually be able to answer the question of whether or not a corporation will ever fit in with people, because it's very complicated, very long, and as we have found out, maybe a little contentious, we're going to present, I think, some interesting sides of the argument and maybe try to dissect some of the minutiae of it, so we'll see how it goes. I kind of want to just jump in and ask like a really big question, which is, in your guys' opinions, like, do you think people want to be bros with companies on the internet?
No.
Why not?
I don't know. I mean, there's something kind of awkward about a big company that has, 20,000, 40,000 people trying to become your best friend. There's a sort of a trust, and there's sort of a, I don't know what the best word would be for this, but there's an honesty involved with that you get with a friend or somebody else that you know, but it's kind of weird and awkward when some big company's like, hey, let's be bros,
If the drinks were free, which they probably would be.
Yeah, they probably would be.
Maybe. But I don't think it would change, our relationship, which is not one of bros, but more like, maybe a weird uncle or an awkward uncle who sometimes will do something amazing. And maybe, hey.
Yes!
See what I mean? Something amazing?
So Jeff, we're answering the question of, would you want to be bros with a company on the internet?
No.
Yeah, so. So Alex, just finish out your creepy uncle thought.
Yeah. I wasn't referring to you at all, even though you have a very avuncular and commanding presence. I think it's okay to not be friends with everybody. And the internet is all about, in many ways, the democracy of all kinds of communities coming together. And let's not pretend that these communities are going to work together all the time or are going to find common ground even. But occasionally, they can learn from each other. And I guess that's what we're doing here. It doesn't mean that we're going to leave like best friends, but at least we can acknowledge what we can get from each other and have a working relationship or something friendly.
Sorry. Or like to put it in like purely internet terms, like you're not going to be expecting or wanting a company to be like writing on your Facebook wall. Like, the internet version of utmost familiarity.
I'm not. And so I can't speak for, sixth graders right now. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure how that relationship will change because of technology. I think things are changing in terms of how people relate to companies and and a lot of it has to do with savvier marketing, and I think a culture of publicity, and a culture where everyone can see, more and more people can see your Facebook wall. So, I mean, apart from the question of do you want a company writing on a Facebook wall, do people care that companies are reading Facebook walls? I mean, that's maybe the first question. And I think a lot of people probably in the future won't care, because that's the way that we seem to be moving, for better or worse.
I mean, I think the question's also a lot of nuance. Like, it's up to the individual's relationship with the company. I mean, I don't think it's appropriate for Time Warner Cable to go around writing on people's Facebook walls. But what if we have a Facebook page, and if there was a discussion, sure. I think the internet exists. One of the things that works really well, it's the nut that everybody wants to crack, and I don't think everybody ever completely will be the challenge of humanizing a brand. And I mean, I know the guy that runs our Facebook page, and he's friendly, and he likes it when people are friendly back. So, I don't know. I won a contest from the DeLorean Motor Company on Facebook, and they wrote on my wall to tell me, and it made my whole afternoon one time.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm not I'm not exactly in the target audience.
What is the DeLorean target audience?
Dudes that refurbish. I couldn't be less in the DeLorean target audience, really, but they sell like refurbished DeLoreans from dead stock, or if you have one, they'll refurbish it, or they don't make new ones, but they take what was left when the company went bankrupt and refurbish them and sell them, and they were just. I think that for April Fool's Day, I think it was an April Fool's thing. They just did something on Facebook like, post the luckiest thing that ever happened to you or something like that. And I did, and I won the little contest, and they sent me a Hot Wheel of a DeLorean and wrote on my wall. And I was like, man, I am so mad that I can never buy one of these things. For real, because I would. So, I mean, it can be done.
So it sounds like there's a really interesting kind of gap or like butting heads of this question of, so Greg mentioned something which I think is really interesting, which is the idea of trust. And I wonder if that's related to if a corporation, if a company is interacting with you using the internet and they are being somewhat familiar, is the trust problem that like you're always waiting for them to spew the thing where like now it's advertising, so like now you're being sold to, and that there's this line with Jeff's story, which is, it kind of is advertising because it's a company and they have visibility for, as it relates to your friends on your wall. But at the same time, it makes your day. Like you said, it made your day. So there's like there's like a strange back and forth there. Could you guys talk to that a little bit? Alex, it looks like you have something.
Not really, but last year I was near Cooper Union, and there was a red DeLorean parked outside, and
this panel is now DeLoreans.
I got inside, the guy customized it because as he said, you can't buy them anymore, but except from these custom manufacturers and hobbyists. It was awesome. But DeLorean is kind of like one of those companies that got very lucky, because it's like crazy viral marketing of the 80s, and they went back and forth through time too, so that was beneficial. But I guess it's like that. There's another example of like where as long as you know that there's a company involved, I think people who use the internet or who use our sites they're pretty savvy about the way things I think are going, and they know that people are making money on the internet, and they know that there are companies that are advertising to them. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'd say we need to get away from the disconnect where at some point trust is broken. There has to be just an acknowledgement from the beginning. There can't be any like concealing of affiliations or obligations or whatever. I think that's how you build trust. You have to just be as transparent as you can be. I don't know if that helps to answer. But.
Yeah, I mean, it's like earlier this week I was reading KLM Airlines was looking for passengers that were checking out on Foursquare and then stalking them on Facebook and Twitter and finding out information about them, saying like, oh, well, they're going to go visit their family. Maybe this guy would like, a watch or something, or some chocolates or something to give to his girlfriend or whatever. And there's that weird boundary of trust where like they're finding you, then they're finding out where else you are and finding other information about you on the internet, and then surprising you at the airport with something that relates to you. Like, there's a very weird boundary where that's like, that's great, that's awesome that you're trying to reach out to somebody, but it's also kind of weird that they're actually going out and stalking you like that. There is that. So where's that trust boundary? Like, I don't know.
Nobody does. Nobody. It's just a place that you have to risk it and see where it goes. I mean, I think we've all given gifts to a significant other or somebody who we would like to become a significant other, and sometimes you knock it out of the park, and other times it's wrong, and sometimes it's just creepy. You know what I mean? You're just like. Yes, so how did you know that? That happens in your daily life, and it happens, I mean, it's just about accurately gauging a relationship, and you make those judgment calls all day, and it's just bigger when you have a bigger audience and more revenue and more to gain or lose from the interaction.
So I wonder, we talk about the idea of this being a point where a company might go too far in its familiarity with a person, where they start to actually invade meat space and like show up, to surprise you with something because they know from your tweet or from your Foursquare check-in what your GPS location is and all this other stuff. And that we also talk about, we get to this point where we think about advertising as something that we have to get used to or something that we have to accept, and that, what you're saying is that we just have to we have to go into the situation knowing that is what's going to happen. And I wonder how much of that latter idea and how much of this idea is related to an affinity for a time before the internet had ads, before people, and is it weirdly nostalgic? Are we moving? Do we want to use these technologies, or are these technologies being forced on us? ...
I'd like to respectfully disrespect your question
Yeah.
Everybody, I just loathe the idea that everything was cool until you got here. You know what I mean? Like, advertising has always been, it's the engine that drives a creative economy, and just like when there was other advertising on the internet, I guess before I got there or whatever, it was just cooler advertising that the audience didn't mind. And before there was the internet, there were magazines, and like people threw the cards away and then read the articles or thought, oh, that's an interesting. They just kind of moved on with it, And even in like regular zines and like cool zines, when I used to read Maximum Rock and Roll, there were like little like Discord had ads in there. Nobody seemed to cry about it. That's advertising. It's just there.
I think of I guess I think of the internet in some ways like a city. And you think about New York City, this problem happens all the time. I mean, I have trouble like going on to the High Line because while I never got a chance to go on it before it was redesigned, when it was actually a railroad track and covered in weeds and native grasses that weren't put there by some fancy architect. I always feel like I wish I had been there for that. There's almost like a nostalgia that's built into that experience, and I think that happens all over the city. It happens all over every city. It happens everywhere in the world. That you can't have development without some creative destruction in the process. So I guess the question is, what sort of civic duties do any of us have, be it content creators or, as someone called them recently, content artists, and advertisers, journalists, whatever. What civic duty do we have as architects, urban planners, landscape architects, designers when trying to build out this city? And I think, sometimes you're going to be destroying something that was really awesome, and you're going to be making something that's bad.